So Chris Eubank Jr. stops Renold Quinlan in the 10th round. A lot of people were worried that this fight could turn out to be a mismatch, and those fears were well founded because it pretty much was a mismatch. Although it wasn't over in a couple of rounds. As I say, it took 10 rounds for Eubank Jr. to get rid of him. Renold Quinlan was tough. He stuck in there. He tried his best, but he was just totally, I can't even say outclassed, although he was outclassed to a certain extent. I just think, yeah, he was outclassed. And it was also the athleticism of Eubank was too much for Quinlan. Quinlan is a very basic fighter. He does the fundamental basic things relatively competently, but as Floyd Mayweather would say, there was just no special effects about Quinlan. He may be a decent puncher, but nothing special, not particularly fast, and he had less experience than Eubank Jr. So Eubank Jr. pretty much did what he wanted for the whole fight. He won every single round, and he just wore Renold Quinlan's resistance down until he finally took him out in the 10th. And there's not really much else to say about what happened in the fight other than that. He, from the halfway stage on, had Quinlan on the ropes for sustained periods and was unloading shots. Quinlan, to his credit, did move his upper body quite well. Up until the final couple of rounds, he was moving his upper body quite well and making it very difficult for Eubank Jr. to get off his trademark combinations, those uppercuts that he likes to throw. So Eubank Jr. was missing quite a lot when he was trying to tee off on Quinlan in the corners and on the ropes. But eventually he slowed Quinlan down. He started landing some big body shots. He was leading with these big left hooks to the body, and I think that took it out of Quinlan. And eventually he became a sitting duck, and Eubank was able to get off his trademark combinations. Now, it wasn't a particularly convincing performance by Eubank because he made a lot of mistakes, and his work wasn't flowing the way we've seen it flow in other fights, particularly the Nick Blackwell fight. That's the fight where everything Eubank was doing was flowing. And the same in the Spike O'Sullivan fight. Now, Spike O'Sullivan and Blackwell have got a very similar style. Styles make fights, people. Spike O'Sullivan and Blackwell are pressure fighters, guys who come forward with kind of squared up shoulders, with their hands held high. And against the more squared up opponent, it makes it easier for Eubank to land his uppercuts and hooks. And those are his best shots, uppercuts and hooks. He's not really a guy that likes to throw a lot of straight right hands. He likes the uppercuts and hooks and the stuff up close. So against, Quinlan is more of a boxer than a pressure fighter. He stands a bit more side on, uses more straight shots. Against guys like that, I think Eubank's always going to struggle. Guys who throw straight shots, guys who are more side on. Billy Joe Saunders, a southpaw, side on, slick, throws straight punches. Eubank had problems. And obviously he didn't lose any rounds against Quinlan, but you can imagine a guy who is better offensively and just more talented than Quinlan, but also a boxer, a guy that likes to stay side on in the super middleweight division, is definitely going to give Eubank all types of problems. But if you put him in there with a guy who's square, who comes forward at him, Eubank Jr. is going to get punches off. And this is why I still believe, if you say fast forward 18 months, I think Eubank Jr. will be able to give Triple G a good fight. I'm not here saying Eubank Jr. is going to beat Triple G, but I think he can make it interesting while he's in there against Triple G because of Triple G's style, unless Triple G decides to box like he did against Lemieux. But if Triple G comes forward and attacks in that square run style the same way he did against Kell Brook, I think Chris Eubank Jr. will be able to get shots off and he will be able to land. Whether or not he'll be able to land anything hard enough to deter Triple G is another thing, and maybe Triple G will make adjustments if he starts getting caught with combination shots from Chris Eubank Jr. And we know Triple G hits a hell of a lot harder than Chris Eubank Jr., that's for sure. So how will Jr. react to that type of power? Probably not very well, as most other fighters don't. So, yeah, but I do think just based on styles, Eubank Jr. prefers pressure fighters. He prefers guys who come at him with squared up shoulders, hands held high. He can slot his uppercuts through the middle. But a guy who's side on, a guy who boxes and uses straight punches, he's always going to have problems at this stage of his career anyway. So I'd like to see Eubank Jr. fight a rematch with Billy Joe. If that fight can be made, I think that's the next logical step. If not, then maybe try go after Ramirez at super middleweight if he wants to fight somebody else. That's a dangerous fight. Don't get it twisted. Ramirez could very well beat him. And, Eubank Jr. said he walks around at about 170 pounds, 171. So for a super middleweight, he's not big at all. He's a big middleweight, but he's not a big super middleweight at all. And you could see that actually in there against Quinlan. Quinlan looked a more natural super middleweight. Eubank Jr., if you're only walking around at 2-3 pounds over the super middleweight limit, you're better off fighting at middleweight, really, for the most part. I know Carl Froch said he used to walk around that kind of weight, but, Froch is a much stronger, more hard-hitting super middleweight than Chris Eubank Jr. is probably ever going to be. So I think Eubank Jr. would be wise to, for the moment at least, until he fills out naturally a bit more and gets more of his man's strength, drop back down to middleweight and concentrate on fighting a rematch with Billy Joe and then see where he goes from there. So that's my assessment of the fight. That's my assessment of Eubank Jr.'s performance. I still believe he needs a trainer. Chris Eubank Sr. is clearly his trainer at the moment. He's the guy in the corner giving him instructions, and Eubank Jr. is acting like he don't want to listen, but he did implement some of the things that Eubank Sr. told him to do. But from a technical point of view, Jr. leaves himself open a lot. He throws a lot of wild punches, misses a lot, doesn't get punished because he rolls with punches and he does have quite good reflexes. And even though Quinlan caught him a few times, Eubank Jr. was, as I say, rolling with the shots and taking the sting off him. So he doesn't get caught with that many flush punches. In fact, in Eubank Jr.'s whole career, even against the likes of Nick Blackwell, Spike O'Sullivan, etc., he didn't get caught with that many flush shots. Even when he did get caught by those guys, he tended to be rolling with the punches and, took the sting off it. Apart from maybe a couple of times against Spike O'Sullivan where I thought he did get caught clean, but, properly flush without slipping a shot. But generally, he's quite good at slipping, but it doesn't look polished the way he does it. It looks a bit haphazard the way he slips his shots, a bit random. And I just feel he's still rough around the edges, still raw. He needs some refinement there. He needs a proper trainer. And in order to have a proper trainer, he's going to need to actually listen. But maybe it's going to take him getting beaten by the likes of a Triple G before he's going to listen to anybody, because he does have great athletic ability. Maybe not the biggest puncher in the world, but great athletic ability, very good speed, and a good punch selection. Good stamina. We know that he's one of the best athletes in the game. He's in tremendous condition, great work rate, but his technique is all over the place. If only he had a good trainer to settle him down so he would know when to throw the right shots at the right time, when to utilize certain punches, when to utilize certain angles, and create some rhyme and reason to his style rather than it just being all haphazard the way it is. Now, having a random style like that might work against certain opponents because it's unpredictable. But other times, I think certain guys will be able to exploit what Eubank Jr. is doing, because at times I don't think he knows what he's doing. And that's the issue. Yeah. You get some guys where there's no rhyme or reason to their style, but they in their head know what they're doing. But Eubank just looks like he's freestyling and he don't even know what punch he's going to throw next, much less the opponent a lot of the time. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on the fight. Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. How did you feel Chris Eubank Jr. performed? Were you expecting more from him? Were you impressed with him? What did you think of Quinlan? And where do you think Eubank Jr. should go next? Who do you think he should challenge? James DeGale, George Groves, the winner of Callum Smith versus Darrell. Billy Joe Saunders, should he go for Triple G? Let me know what you think in the comment section, people. It's your boy Hartman, I'm out.